his adult life there when he's not been in the Navy as a naval intelligence officer or working in the federal government in a variety of capacities, including as a congressional counsel in the Reagan and George H.W. Bush White Houses, as a senior staff member on the House side of Congress, working on investigations and oversight, and also in the State Department as an assistant secretary of state under George W. Bush, responsible for narcotics and law enforcement affairs. His name is Robert Charles. He is the author of several books, notably about the state of Maine and some of its characters. He is also a candidate for governor of the state of Maine. And if we have him with us, we will go to Robert Charles now with very profound thanks for participating in this program. Bobby, you and I have talked about this problem for some time. I know you are seized with it, and we're very anxious to get your thoughts on not only what's happening in the state of Maine, but in rural areas and other places across America as a result of these marijuana grow operations, the Chinese triads and the like. Welcome back, sir. Good to see you now.
Thank you, Frank. So first, let me say that I am running for governor, and one of the reasons I'm running for governor is to reverse a lot of what Steve and Tucker talked about. So my hat is off to you, to Steve, to Tucker for putting a bright light on this. I cannot tell you how profound the changes in the state are that I grew up in. I grew up in rural Maine. I live not far from where I grew up. There are Chinese grow houses within a couple of miles of where I sit right here. There is no excuse in the world, honestly, for Governor Mills, the Democrat governor, and the Democrat legislature to have given the green light to these organizations, not to be taking them down, not to be working to try to protect the people of the state of Maine. So one of the most animating features for me is the siege that this state is under, and it literally is under siege from drug traffickers. When you open the door to not just the Chinese triads and these drug houses, these grow houses, which, as Steve is exactly right, he's, as he said, I think he traveled 10,000 miles around this state, every county, to try to understand this problem. I have been traveling for the last 2 years around every county, and in every county, sometimes when I'm sitting in a town hall or in a local environment where an American Legion or something, people can literally point out the window at a Chinese grow house. So they are pervasive. There is no excuse whatsoever for this governor not to have taken these down. She is they have decided, the Democrats, they want to turn this state into a sanctuary state. They've invited 8,000 illegal aliens in here. Most of the people you find in these grow houses are illegals. They should be swept out. I like to say they should be wire brushed out of this state. There is no excuse for it. And it endangers lives. And of course, it contributes to an upward cascade of drug trafficking. We have the Dominican drug trafficking groups are here, led by the Trinitarios. We have arms of the Sinaloa cartel here. We have major traffickers in different parts of the state. They've dominated it with meth trafficking. With the coast is particularly affected by meth trafficking. We have fentanyl everywhere. Think about this fact, Frank, and again, it animates me every day. Tonight, I will be speaking with large numbers of Mainers about this exact problem elsewhere in the state. Bottom line is, we had 10,000 overdoses in this state last year between fatal and non-fatal. We lose between 40 and 70 kids a month. And the answer, as Steve so aptly pointed out, is they give out needles. If you're walking a dog in Bangor or in Portland, you have to watch where you're walking, kick the needles to the side. That is not Maine. That is not the place where we come for lobster rolls, where lots of the country thinks of a beautiful place covered with moose and, great, pristine forest land. As Steve pointed out, this has a toxic effect. It is affecting our environment. It is affecting our kids. It is affecting the culture. So the first thing I want to say to you, Frank, is that there is a culture of lawlessness growing up here in the state of Maine. It is, it's felt everywhere. We take down we take down drug houses, not these Chinese grow houses, because they pop right back up like mushrooms after a rain, because at the end of the day, this governor doesn't care. This AG doesn't care. But we take down drug houses filled with fentanyl and meth and heroin and crack cocaine. The former U.S. attorney, by the way, wouldn't even bring crack cocaine cases. There were so many other cases. The bottom line is we take down houses, drug houses in places like Fairfield and Windham and all over the southern and northern part of the state. I'm going to be up in Fort Kent next week. We take down these drug houses that have between enough fentanyl in them and other drugs to kill between 100,000 and 500,000 Mainers a week. Okay, we take down that number of drug houses a week. This has become a weed garden, literally and figuratively. And so my first point, I guess, is that we are accommodating, we are acquiescing in a culture of lawlessness here that must be reversed. That is one of the first things I will do. The second thing we're looking at, and it relates directly, and Steve mentioned it in that interview, is that we have a crisis of accountability. This governor, this governor's brother, this governor's friends and family, they, at the end of the day, there is no accountability. They did an audit recently, they found $2.1 billion in non-competed contracts going out to friends and family. Why? Because the Democrats have controlled this state by a teeny little margin. They have controlled it for 30 of the last 32 years. And I am going to fundamentally reverse that. I am going to restore public safety, get the drug traffickers out of here within weeks or months. We will get rid of most of the major drug traffickers. We will have those warrants to take down those houses. We will destroy them, and we will ultimately find ways to put that kind of resource housing back into the hands of homeless veterans who incidentally have been displaced by the illegal aliens. We are going to find ways to restore the state's affordability. Everything, Frank, I'll end with this. You can either have a virtuous cycle where good decisions are made by the government and it allows the private sector and individuals, families, children to have a productive, successful life where they feel safe, unhunted by these Chinese and other traffickers, or you can do the reverse. You can have a vicious cycle in which everything feeds into everything. And today we have the highest property taxes in the United States in Maine. We have our education system has fallen to number 50 of 50. There is a complete collapse of what I would call the proper and sort of traditional and historic civic order. And a lot of that goes back to things like these drug houses. These grow houses, Frank, are a genuine threat to public safety, and I am going to get them all down and out.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. We appreciate your passion on this subject, and I think it further reinforces the point that the problem is grave, obviously in your state, but everywhere else where it is manifesting as well. And if you can stay with us, we'll probably ask you a question or two based on your experience in the State Department, contending with